Okay, thank you and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Town Promotion Committee. I have apologies from Councillor Alban. Do I have any other apologies for this committee? I know everyone in the room is voting member of it. Okay, so are there any declarations of interest for committee members tonight?
Yeah, we're all interested.
Sorry?
We are all interested.
You are all interested. I am delighted to hear that, Councillor Shonk. That's a great, especially when we get to the last item. Minutes of the last meeting. Can we approve the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Town Promotion Committee held on the 5th of June as a true record? I need a proposer and a seconder. Councillor Ara and seconder. It's got to be one of you two, basically. Thank you, Councillor Ovington. It's between the three of you. You're the voting members of the committee along with me. Okay, so that's very quickly got us to item 4, working with Thanet District Council, and Julie for an update on the Kent Creative Isle campaign, please.
Okay, right, so for those of you that don't know me, I am Julie Woods and I work in the tourism team at Thanet District Council. And I've done since 1991. My role is marketing and PR. Do you want a little bit of background information on the work we did with Ramsgate Town Council last year to start with, or would you like to go through just what our proposals are and our suggestions are for this coming year?
Background.
Okay, so last year was the first year we worked with Ramsgate Town Council. We put a joint budget in, and it was following a conversation with Rebecca and Dean about helping to raise the profile of Ramsgate and Thanet as a creative destination because of the increase in the galleries and everything that you've that are now opening up and the creative experiences that you've got. It was a partnership campaign, so we promoted the whole of Thanet, but what we did is Ramsgate was first and foremost, so if there was an image, it was a Ramsgate image. If there was an opportunity for things, Ramsgate would have been 2 of them. And we worked, mainly the audiences were older couples and younger couples, as they are the audiences identified in the last visitor survey that we did in 2018. We did some in-house work with social media. We did a whole piece of work around what we'd actually got in the destination by way of galleries, creative experiences, art tours and walks. We worked and we did a campaign with England's Coast, National Coastal Tourism Academy, at the beginning of the year to promote the destination. That included online activity, a bespoke newsletter and page for social media. And it worked really, really well. We got some great profile, we got some good coverage out of it. We managed to stretch the voice of the campaign through the partners we subscribe to, which is Tourism South East, England's Coast and Visit Kent. We had a new image for Ramsgate with Hold Creative that was taken on the harbour that we led with for all activity. We produced a 48 hours itinerary for the whole area, which was a bit of a pick and mix, so people could pick and choose what they wanted to do. And then there was a campaign report at the end of it to show what we delivered, some of the content that we delivered, and the statistics of how it had worked. And I think the agreement was that it was a really good campaign and worthwhile continuing to work on for the coming year. Anything you think that I've missed?
No, I mean, just add that the Creative Coast, that image, the posters then were put out in a few of the
So as a South Eastern partners for free, they gave us poster space at quite a few of their stations. So we've got pictures of it. I've got family and friends out taking pictures at Waterloo, at Bexley Heath, at Welling, locally, which was really, really good. And it was a great image. So what the aim is this year is to build on that campaign, to continue to promote Kent's Creative Isle and Ramsgate, We're still sort of in the planning stages, doing some of the research for the activity this year, but there are some elements, and I'll talk you through what the presentation is now, that in conversations with Rebecca and Dean, what we'd like to achieve this year and what we'd like to get out of it and how we would like to extend it. So we don't want to rework and do exactly the same as we did last year. We'd like to try and reach a few new audiences, and we've got some ideas about how to do that. An addition this year is raising the profile of Ramsgate through its architecture and associated stories, which ties in nicely with the heritage harbour status, the great architecture that's Ramsgate's got, and some of maybe the events coming up next year. To raise the profile of harbour-related experiences, and that's one element where there needs to be, I think, a little bit of work on product development that we might be able to deliver through the Heritage Harbour Group. And also to look at the opportunity to encourage overnight stays for this activity. So rather than just get people down for the day, what we want them to do is actually stay over and spend a bit more in the community and help our hoteliers and our accommodation providers. And on to objectives now. Thank you, Dean. So the first objective is to collate information on Ramsgate's architecture and associated stories and have it available online so it's easily accessible to local residents and visitors. And I'll update you a little bit more on the activity for that in a minute. To collate information on harbour-related experiences and have it available online so it's easily accessible to local residents and visitors. And to help facilitate the creation of harbour-related experiences, ideally in a way that could encourage overnight stays, particularly out of the main summer season. So key for us throughout this activity and for the audiences we're targeting is that they come not during the main summer months when the area is busy anyway, but help support those businesses in the shoulder months. We've had some ideas. I mean, this slide, planned activity, it's through the conversations we've had of what we would like to deliver. Some of them are booked and a couple of them I'm still doing a little bit of research on to make sure that we're targeting right and we're getting there still we can. So for where we mentioned earlier about raising the profile of Ramsgate's architecture, we are going to get an architecture blog written and done by Leslie Gillilan, who is the journalist that visited and did the feature on Ramsgate in iNews. She's really interested in architecture. She did a blog on Margate a few years ago, and it was really, really good. We've spoken to her and she's happy to do that for us. The market we're looking at, so to try and extend our reach and not just hit the same people, we've got the audiences that we had from the data and the competition last year. We're going to do near Europe, and we've picked the Dutch market, and the reason for that is there's growth. Visit England has said there is growth in the Dutch market for 2025. They have on their website lists of all the different markets and what they're interested in, where they visit, why they visit. And when I've looked through, whilst there are similarities to the French and German market, the Dutch market are really good at return visits, which the other two are not. And it used to be that a return, to get somebody new was 5 times more expensive than to get a return visit. So that, I think, sticks the Dutch market out from the others. The people that are visiting sit quite nice with our audiences. 57% travel with a spouse or a partner. Their average spend per visit is £571, which is mid between France and Germany. But they're ranked top 5. The UK is ranked top 5 as the places they would visit, whereas for France and Germany, it's only in the top 10. So you've got like another 5 competitors you're having to deal with. From a product match point of view, they like vibrant cities, culture, contemporary culture, sport, cultural heritage and historic buildings. So there is so much there that aligns really well with the product that we've got. They plan in advance, which is good. That helps for businesses. They can plan up to 6 months in advance. And because they're a growth market, the England's Coast National Tourism Academy have actually they hold a really big travel and tourism show each year called the Canterbury's in Utrecht, that is really well attended. And we placed an advert in their brochure last year, which gave us some good profile. But there's an opportunity this year for us to run a competition on their stand, have the big picture at the back of the stand, and we're hoping to work with the shuttle to offer free return crossing. And I was hoping to work with the Royal Temple Yacht Club for accommodation, but unfortunately they prefer not to do it because they have limited availability, so they don't want to book it up. So I still need to find an accommodation provider. There's no cost to us for doing that other than £300, and that's purely translation. So they go to the Dutch market with everything in Dutch, which is really, really good. I'm waiting for, the page for social media in the Dutch market. I've been given a copy of a promotion that they did last year with North Yorkshire Moors to see how it worked and how it aligns. I think it didn't work so well for them because their product, I don't think, sits really well, but I think it could work for us. But I just need to read through their report. And another element that we're looking at is an influencer visit. Ideally, what we'd like with that is a 48-hour visit that they would put out on their site, but potentially with the opportunity for us to negotiate that we have the content they produce for our own use, which you can do. So if they take photos or anything like that, we have that for our use. We're still researching influencers and looking at how it works with costs. So I think it's, if you have under 10,000 followers, it's sort of one cost, and if it's over 10,000, it's another. So we're still, I think, key for an influencer is actually finding somebody whose audience aligns with the audiences we're targeting, and we haven't quite got that yet. I've looked on the Trav Media website, so we subscribe to Trav Media, which is a PR and journalist website for destinations, journalists and PRs. And you can search on there for influencers and journalists. But when I put in influencers and the key things we're looking for, I'm not getting anybody come up that I think will give us the reach. So we're doing it the hard way and going out and about with people that we follow, that we know like the destination. And then lastly, promotion of harbour related experiences. We've got a few harbour-related experiences, but I think we need more, and we've had a few discussions about what these might be and how they might look. But I think that's something that potentially can be delivered going forward through the Heritage Harbours group that we haven't mentioned to them yet because they've been very busy on getting launched and all the Heritage Open Days activity that they've been doing. So I don't know if that's the sort of thing you were wanting. It's an outline of what we plan to do this year, we'd like to do, but we're still at a stage where we need to do a little bit of research with it and then agree with Rebecca and Dean that that is the way they'd like to go forward.
Thank you.
And if anybody's got any questions, I'm more than happy.
I was going to say, thank you. That actually sounds really good, and when we get to the budget, I think I really see how that will fit in with some of the things that I'm going to be talking about. So, are there any questions, committee members and non-committee members? Roshan.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to know, so what is the time frame for this, with the Dutch market?
The Dutch market for Canterbury's is in January.
Okay.
So it would make sense to sort of lead with the exhibition in January and the competition, and then maybe to follow that up with some social media in the same market, so that we can maybe use that as a way of just those that have either signed into the competition, and we will have their data, then communicating with them, and then maybe selling in 48 hours of the architecture blog, so that there's all those.
So when are we expecting them to visit us?
They do visit in the summer, but they do visit, a lot of them, 23% and 25% out of the shoulder seasons. But they would, if they're planning and they're doing 6 months in advance, it would be post-summer next year.
And also regarding the harbour-related experiences, there are a lot of things I think our harbour needs doing, the work. I don't know. So are you going to work with our harbour master or?
Yes, yeah, we will certainly work with Matt on things, but there were a few things like Rebecca mentioned. It doesn't have to be a harbour experience. It could be an experience that's in or around the harbour. So you have the bird walks. You mentioned, Rebecca did mention that there's a chocolate shop that might want to do chocolate workshops. It's anything like that that maybe you can think out of the box and get in. Old Creative said when we worked with them last year that they were keen on maybe doing classes, painting workshops, art workshops around the harbour. So it's looking into it and having a think about what might be able. Another one was the tile making, whether there was anything around there that could be done.
And what's your timescale?
That's going to be an ongoing thing. So we have some things we can promote. We have some things we can promote now, but some elements of it will be later because the product needs to be developed. So it's ongoing. Like last year, we didn't have everything, but we made a start with it. This year, we've got a few bits we can add on and then move it forward.
I'm asking because I've signed Ramsgate up to be part of Beach of Dreams, which is a national project. And I haven't got terribly far with developing our proposal for Beach of Dreams because I've been too busy, basically, and had no capacity. But it's a good project. I paid £200 for my CIC for us to become a member, and that guarantees that they will come and plant a flag. And it's they've got a project of national significance from Arts Council funding, so you can go on their website and look at Beach of Dreams. And some coasts have been able to really take it up. I have had a few discussions with Dover and Deal who have signed up. And so some part of it is like active, like walking, and some part of it is they make flags. And I was thinking that we could do some flag making workshops and supplement what we put on the beach. And then as far as I've got in my head is the synchro swimming. So I do active walkers walking here, carrying flags, planting them on our beach, and then,
I stop you because technically I'm not supposed to be a speaker.
Okay, no. Yeah, I just thought I ought to flag it up.
That's absolutely fine, but I think we're just going slightly off topic. Okay, so by all means, come back and talk to us and go to Julie later on, but sorry, I just need to stop.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's agreeing.
Could I ask who you're working with in Ramsgate?
Work with Rebecca and Dean, you
I
mean, or?
meant like the tunnels,
Yeah, we work with all of the track we work with.
the Grange.
Well, anybody that we can, we do, yes. Yeah. So we worked with the Grange on Heritage Open Days, we communicated with those Ramsgate tunnels, yes we do. Petticoat Lane Emporium, we promote the businesses, we will promote, but it's more for us, it's more accommodation providers and attractions that we have the more, I suppose, more contact with.
No, I'm just thinking of who provides the contact. The context for the people that you attract here.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
When people come here,
Yes,
they presumably want to see things,
what there is to see and do.
scenes, and I wondered who's involved in meeting that.
So how that would happen is, as part of the promotion or the activity we do, directs to the Visit Thanet website and the pages. So last year we had Kent's Creative Isle pages that we produced specifically for the campaign, and all the activity drove to those pages, and the profile on those pages was weighted towards Ramsgate.
But are those venues that we've got here, are they buying into what you're doing?
No.
No.
No, we don't, there's no,
They're not involved
we don't
directly.
buy in. It's an opportunity for them to promote as an authority. For us, we've never charged anybody.
No, I don't mean financially. I mean, are they involved? Do they know what you're doing, basically?
Yes,
So, for
some
example,
will
Turner
do.
Row was a partner,
Yeah.
and we did part of one of the competitions was one of the experiences was somebody came down and did their glass making class, and then they did their blog about it.
Yeah, so we will liaise with businesses where it's relevant for what we're trying to deliver So like Rebecca said, we did liaise with, that was a competition winner, wasn't it? And she went to Ramsgate Tunnels, she stayed, was it?
I thought Van Gogh might have been of interest.
Well, we're looking at a Van Gogh tour, but that's somebody else's sort of approached us about that, but it's very much in the infancy. We've obviously created our own Van Gogh trail, which has been sparked from the Van Gogh. And we got the bust, how many years ago was that? Gosh, I think it was 5 years ago, wasn't it? Something like that.
But it's a good point, and that would be a link for that market, yes. Anything we've got that where there is that link, then we would flag that in the copy and the activity that we do. Any hooks basically that we can use to get somebody's interest and to get them here visiting, we would do.
Anyone else got any other questions on that?
Well, it's just observations really. I mean, if we can have all these visitors, which we want and must have, they want to come along and see the beauty of Ramsgate Harbour. Well, at the moment, you've got the Smeaton's Dry Dock, which is full of rubbish and concrete blocks falling back into there. The bollards restored all along there and painted. The slats of wood that was removed outside Wetherspoons on that concrete block. The Madeira waterfall. It just needs a really good tidy up.
I think really those.
I mean, if you're going to have these visitors, they want to come and have a look. To enhance all the area before they even come along.
I think we need to raise most of those issues through minor works at TDC.
That's fine.
So
I'm not TDC, so now you know.
No, I know you're not. But I think you're right about those issues. But it's not something that either the tourism department at TDC or this council can do a huge amount other than.
But it's good that the fact we're talking about it because this is what people want to come and see.
You're right. Those are things that all need looking at.
That's it.
I think maybe the councillors for Central Harbour Board aren't actually. Oh yes, we have.
Yes, this is why I did. Sorry to interrupt you, Chair. I didn't finish what I was going to say. Like Councillor Shong mentioned about the dry dock and the harbour. It does need a lot of work. I'm forgetting about the Madeira waterfall and other parts of the Ramsgate town centre. But the harbour itself needs a lot of beautification, I think, for to attract visitors.
I think we also have to remember that the harbour is a working harbour, and there are going to be things happening and changing with it over the seasons as well. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we can always try and get TDC to do better on those things. So maybe that's something Councillor Ara could take away to pick up on, if that's all right. Councillor, sorry, I didn't want to something else in.
Say we are lobbying TDC. We have since 2019 about the waterfall over and over again. It is about money. It's a very complicated, complex repair job. Both the Pulamite and the waterfall is leaking, so as in the pools. So they are on the case.
I think we've all in Nice Cliff have got, like 3 tonnes of emails, multiple on the place every time.
Many years. Yes, that needs to be fixed. It is a priority.
We are reasonably hopeful through TDC that we will be able to secure the budget in next year's budget. That's what we're working on. There hasn't been money in the budget this year for the very significant costs in the repairs to the waterfall area, the leaks that Councillor Huxley just mentioned. But we are working very hard to get the money out of the next year's budget. So, I can't say any more than that really. That's we go. So it feels like I haven't got any more questions for Julie. So no, in that case I'll move over to Simon and the update on Active Ramsgate, please.
Julie,
Are you all right? If I go? Yeah. I was just going to say if there is any further questions or anything, you can maybe feed them through Rebecca or something. I was happy to answer. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Sit and watch me pack up. I'll be quick then. No pressure.
Yeah, thanks.
That's all right, you're welcome.
Too hard, isn't it?
No, actually, I enjoyed it. Nice to get out of the office and
We come to
Take care.
Okay, Simon.
Thanks, Chair. I won't go through the whole update as written, it's there for you to consume. But just to flag a few things, have a little verbal update. The biggest thing I've updated on is Active Ramsgate Week, which I did do a verbal update to this committee last time, but it just finished. So you've got a lot more information here in terms of its success and what went well and what we sort of learnt for the future. But the headlines are that did go very well, and it's a really good reinstatement of the week that we want to be continuing. The other sort of bigger item is promotion, and after many hurdles, we are now moving forward with our core promotional material of a new directory leaflet, which kind of sort of unblocks future promotional stuff as well. It's taken us fair time to get the portfolio back together in terms of like layers with businesses, what's still going, what we're focusing on now, that sort of thing. So that's kind of unlocked more promotion to come. The other things I wanted to flag was, although it's only a small point in the update, there's a point about small-scale operators and TDC licensing. This is a small point in the update. It's quite critical, quite vital to Active Ramsgate's existence in my mind, because what's come to light is that even the smallest scale activity providers who use outdoor spaces are meant to be paying Thanet District Council a licence fee of a minimum of £1,000. So, for example, if you're a yoga teacher and you do a yoga class in a park, you're meant to be paying a licence fee of a minimum of £1,000, which is a huge obstacle and barrier to such small scale providers. We are moving forward with TDC on this. We are putting together a briefing with the town promoter on some options that which we discussed in the working group for Councillor Alban to take ultimately to TDC's cabinet to maybe look at changing this, finding other alternatives. I just wanted to flag it because we're right in the thick of that. And like I say, I think it's pretty critical to the healthy portfolio of activities that we can deliver, especially in Ramsgate. I think it hits us a bit harder than other towns because a lot of our offering is on smaller scale providers. So I just wanted to bring that to your particular attention. And one other thing to update you with, which is not in the written update, because it's come since writing that, we haven't had an update on kite surfing in Pegwell Bay, and I have been approached by what is now a local kite surfing club who are looking to challenge the stopping of kite surfing at Pegwell Bay, which was stopped after Natural England have revoked their agreement on it and is now being enforced by TDC via a PSPO. Now, this challenge is coming from, like I said, a local club that's been set up, but very much spearheaded by one individual, and they have also been liaising with the British Kite Surfing Association, who are giving them support both in an advisory capacity and I think financially through legal support. And worth noting that British Kite Surfing Association we have had dealings with Active Ramsgate, because they're the ones that ran the kite surfing competitions at the main sands. They're challenging it by providing a report, including that is a habitat regulation assessment that is trying to make the case that kite surfing in that area is not harming wildlife there through largely secondary evidence, but they have been compiling that, and they are wanting to submit that to Natural England, who make the call on this. To submit it, they have to call on a competent authority to do this. This is a public body or someone who holds public office. So they actually came to us through me to ask if Ramsgate Town Council would be that competent authority. Having spoken to colleagues and councillors, we've advised them that they need to go through TDC in the first place anyway, because they would be the competent authority. They are the holders of the PSPO, and councillors here both sit on both, so it only makes sense to go through them. So they are pursuing that route as it stands, and have now submitted it. I'm flagging it because obviously it's relevant to Active Ramsgate, kite surfing having been quite a key activity in the past. It is something we have put less eggs into that basket over time, and that's been part of our refocusing of Active Ramsgate. But it is still an important activity, and one that we have an interest in, and especially being within Ramsgate. So flagging it because it's coming down the line, and this challenge I anticipate going on for some time possibly, and they may come back to us again as Ramsgate Town Council if they exhaust the TDC routes and TDC do not act as their competent authority. They may come back to ask us and say, look, we've tried the TDC route, will you look at this to present it to Natural England? So it might come down the line in terms of a decision for RTC councillors, number one. And number two, also flagging it because those people involved who were talking about continuing this challenge, they did reference the challenge that's gone to another PSPO recently to TDC around a totally different matter, but as they see it in their eyes, this is a not dissimilar situation where the PSPO isn't really working and so can be challenged. Whether they go down that route ultimately, I don't know, but for your awareness. I've got a copy of the report and what's called the habitat regulation assessment that they want to submit to Natural England, and I have promised the people involved that I would share that with any councillors that are interested so they can stay up to date with where it is. From a Ramsgate Town Council perspective right now, there is nothing as councillors to do, but it is going to TDC, so sort of flagging as an awareness thing. Sorry, that's a lot to download and process, but that's kind of where it is. If there's any questions.
I think all we can really do is note that.
It's more of a note, that latter one.
I think if they do need to come back, or if they do choose to come back and ask for our support in any way, then that will be a discussion in the first instance between the town clerk and the chair.
I have flagged it to the town clerk as well.
I do know the history of some of this, so I think all we need to do as town promotion is to just be aware of it. Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, one thing concerns me about Pebble Bay is that who are the landowners? The TDC own land, so does Kent Wildlife Trust. It is multi-landowners. Have these people been informed by the kite surfers?
Yes, they're all aware. If the report is quite detailed, it does actually detail that aspect as well, that there are multiple owners. The challenge, I think, well, not the challenge, the assessment goes to Natural England, because as far as I understand it, it's Natural England is the body that they say, no, we're protecting this as the SSI, and then because they've made that call, it's for the other landowners to enforce. So I think this goes to them first, as to say, based on this evidence, there is no disturbance and there is no harm to wildlife, so can you rescind this, or can you allow this? And then, there wouldn't be that reason for the landowners to have to follow. Is my understanding. I'm not a legal expert on this, and I've only had the report for a matter of days. But like I say, I'm happy to share that report, and they're keen, in fact, for councillors to see it. But they do go into that issue that it is, I think, about 5 different landowners across the area.
If I can just say a very quick one sentence summary, basically Natural England complained and TDC said, okay, we'll stop it. For kite surfing.
Yeah.
Because they complained about the harm to wildlife.
Yeah, but there is some there that's owned by the Kent Wildlife Trust.
Yeah.
And there's no way on planet Earth they will let people kite surf on their land. I mean, if you go to Sandwich Bay, which is not...
It's not on their land, it's...
The sea.
On the sea.
But they have to walk across.
That's the Tide T. And then technically they still own that land, because down at Sandwich Bay, it's not SSI, but the Kent Wildlife Trust have laid down a whole load of regulations, do's and don'ts, dog walking, metal detecting. There's a whole list of it.
I think it's just, let's note it, that it's going on, and whatever the outcome is. I think if it comes up at TDC, which it may well do, then we will pick it up there, but I think what we can do at RTC is just to note it.
Yeah,
I hear your concerns, but I'm not sure there's much we can...
Because I'm on the National Nature Reserve Steering Group.
Oh, then you can be fighting. Okay, can
As I say, I'm happy to share the report as it stands, that
you wanted
detail.
to ask something?
I've seen that kite surfing. I don't think it's detrimental to life down there, but obviously there is disturbance. I think we have to use this as a balance. So some of them days they're down there, I wouldn't even go there anyway because it's too bloody cold.
Frankly, it's out of our hands. And
you're talking about the sea, aren't we?
Yeah, it's out of our hands, but it's something that...
Well, can't we just sort of look at things as a balance? Because if they enjoy kite surfing, I wouldn't, not in that cold weather, but they do. Why not? Why don't they do it when the tide's in? When the tide's out, you've got all those little birds that go with the tide. Something to talk about.
Okay.
Go with the tide.
Was there anything else in the report after that? Have you covered everything you intended to cover?
I think so. One thing I did forget to mention on the promotion of the leaflets, if anyone wants to see them, we've got a load downstairs in the VIC, so I'll grab some.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just going to ask, do we have the time for Active Ramsgate for next year? Have we got the date?
Do the date.
Oh, for the week?
Yeah. It is still May at the half term?
Yeah.
That's what we're planning on, yes.
Still the same?
That's what we're planning on, yeah. Because one, it's... Sorry? Yeah, that half term.
The half term.
Well, that doesn't always necessarily fall on the bank holiday one, but yes, because one, it helps us to drive some promotion ahead of the season, just promoting the week itself, but it also generates a lot more content for promotion beyond it, which is kind of what we've done this year. Actually, we've got now a bank of material that we can use throughout into the next season.
Councillor Green.
Could I ask about the TDC licensing and the beach hut and where you've got with it?
Sorry, the licensing and the beach huts. What do you want to ask?
Well, it seems as though it's going to collapse, yeah?
The hut?
Well, both, in terms of TDC's demands.
We're not allowed to do. We can't.
I mean, £1,000 for any activity on any TDC land is prohibitive, isn't it?
We're looking at taking over the beach hut, but there are so many things that we cannot do with the beach hut if we do take it over, that we have...
Because TDC say you cannot do.
TDC's regulations. We're not sure, I'm actually going to go back to Simon and Rebecca, but we were not at all sure it was viable, so...
I was going to say, well, they are two separate things. Number one, the licensing and the beach hut. They do relate, because if you're using the beach hut to try and give a space to people to do things as a base, but they're doing activity outside, you still would need that licence to pay £1,000. Separately as well, we've talked to CDC colleagues about our proposal for the beach hut. It is, they have confirmed that two key things that are slightly different to our proposal. One is that anyone who's an activity out of that would need their own PLI accreditations, etc. And also that we couldn't rent it out directly to cover any costs of maintenance.
Yeah, well, I think PLI is probably reasonable to ask for that.
One way we're...
But the rest is not reasonable.
Well, back to the licensing issue, yeah, it is, and this is why I flagged it as being, in my mind, pretty existential to a lot of Active Ramsgate, we have raised that with them in the working group. We said that at the time to the officers. It is set in TDC's fees and charges is where we've kind of got to, and so it's really at this point a political decision, and so that's where we're trying to provide alternatives to take that.
That's my point to the chair, really, rather than you, is we're TDC councillors.
Yeah. So
do we want TDC to be charging £1,000 for every single use?
That's the discussion that's going on. I have an email thread involving the head of estates and Councillor Duckworth, who is the cabinet member covering estates, because this comes under estates, and we flagged it up and they are listening, but we don't know what the outcome of that will be yet. So I think I know the direction it's going to go in, but I would be jumping the gun if I was to say any more than that. So if you don't mind, I will keep that off the public bit. Simon is copied into that email thread with Councillor Duckworth as well.
If you've not had the chance as well, it's worth reviewing the last Active Ramsgate working group minutes, because it does detail a lot of that discussion and flagging the points of it being prohibitive.
Do I get them? It's not a committee
You
member.
would have had them in amongst all the plethora of stuff that you get. I'm sorry, Councillor Green, you have had them, but yes, I appreciate that whenever I get emails from Dean and I look at the number of attachments, my heart sinks every time. But Councillor Huxley, you wanted to say something?
See, at the last Active Ramsgate group, we did have this discussion, Simon, Rebecca and us, about these fees and how they aren't really very encouraging to, people wanting to do yoga on the beach or whatever. So they have got the point, I think, haven't they, at TDC about it, and Ruth has.
Yeah.
So this a negotiation, I suppose. But yes, it's not good the way it is at the moment. But we need to push that forward as a political point.
Well, as TDC own every piece of open space.
Exactly, and the beach.
In the town.
Yeah, they own the beach.
Yeah.
Normally beach is royal land.
Yeah.
But
In the whole, they own the beach.
TDCs.
In their whole town, then it's an important issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a very, very significant thing that we've unearthed here.
And slightly worrying, really.
And it actually if you do find the minutes, it comes out of a project that TDC Tourism, might be wrong there, started last year about the registration of small providers. And that's not licensing, but that's a registration. So there is a list. So everyone doing baby yoga and old people's yoga and Tai Chi and organised sunbathing is now asked to register as a provider. That then makes them liable, potentially, to have to pay the licence fee as well. But the registration fee is £52 a year. That's not the problem. But I understand the licence fee is only payable if the person is making a charge. Well, of course, if you are charging a small amount, £5 for a session, which is the kind of prices that we're probably looking at for a lot of these, then you're not going to make your licence fee. And so that is the issue that we are following up through Councillor Duckworth and the Head of Estates. But that's about as far as I think. It is so early in the discussions that I don't want to say any more about where that's going.
It's also worth noting that we actually clarify with TDC that is this minimum licence fee per site or not.
Yes, we have.
They couldn't answer that question on the day, and I'm chasing that down. But say let's take a yoga teacher, your customer base and revenue per session is so small that you're likely to offer it in more than one location. Or you're a walking guide and you're going across multiple locations.
There were just so many questions on this at the moment that we can't answer them. So,
but we're moving you forward to answer them.
Yeah,
It's
unearthed a real can of worms, I'm afraid. But we are on it. That's all I can say, and I'll happily talk to you outside of this meeting about a little bit more of that. But it is such a can of worms, and it is so early that I just do not want to comment because it could change tomorrow. So
the only other spaces I can think of are school playing fields.
Aren't TDC.
That could be used.
That could be used, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that will be down then to the school to charge or not charge and things like that. So, but yeah. Are we ready to move on to the town promoter? For your report? Looks like it. Thank you.
Mine's easy, my report is fine.
Excellent.
Everything is really just notes. Trying to remember when it was submitted, because I think probably the main thing that's happened in the last 2 weeks is I've worked with Guy Sortel, who's a creative designer. I worked with him on the wayfinding project as well. And he's also one of the members of the cultural consortium for the High Street House, amongst other things. And we've created a one-page, what we're calling Ramsgate events calendar. So it's kind of to replace the old Ramsgate rocks, which you'll all remember fondly, which after COVID we just couldn't get the momentum going, people paying for the adverts, and it cost £4.5 to produce that.
It hit rock bottom.
So it hit rock bottom, thank you very much, Councillor Shaw. And so this is an alternative. In terms of price, actually, it will work out cheaper than Ramsgate rocks.
I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
Presented. Easily downloadable.
Rebecca, have you got a copy of it here? Because I don't have a copy in my bag. I know I took some away last night.
No, I didn't. Have you got one in your bag from yesterday?
Only one I've drawn all over.
That's what it's for. Here's an active version.
No, yeah,
we've got loads downstairs. We've done.
There are some downstairs.
Yeah, I can grab some in a minute and just pass them round. So that's happened. It's had some really good feedback. So and obviously this is the first time we've actually got it to print. We got it to print within 3 days, and they allowed me to go over on Friday night and do their secret code and pull out. So we had 100 to make do with for those first few days of September, because we were determined to get it ready and be in town before the 1st of September, which we achieved. And from feedback, Councillor Crittenden and Fraser were at the Ramsgate Event Organisation meeting last night. We had some good feedback there as well, but we talked about perhaps looking at doing it monthly so people are aware that every month there'll be a new one, because we were thinking of doing October/November because they're quieter months. But actually, as you see if you've looked at it, it is targeted at visitors, and it will become more visitor heavy depending on the season and the month we're in. But we are also doing it for residents, so the Bradford House events are all on there, and we will just have to weigh that up month by month. But if you know of any events happening for October, you need to let me know by Monday morning, which in my world means Monday afternoon, so don't worry too much.
Can I ask you where you get your feedback from?
There's quite a few WhatsApp groups from event organisers and from people that are running classes, attractions, and from social media. Rebecca,
if we just pause for a minute, I think it's actually really worth going down and getting some.
I know where they are, so I think this makes sense.
It's good one.
I'll resume,
So actually the evening I went and picked them up, I dropped a load at the station and filled up the leaflet display holder that we've installed there. And a train arrived and people were picking them up going, oh, what's happening in September? So it's been sort of designed that it will sit in the leaflet display holder. You'll see Ramsgate and September. So, I think I think it's really successful. And credit obviously to Guy for creating the template so quickly.
I think it's actually the way Ramsgate colours are used here. It's nice,
sort of retro, but
Yeah. And the other good thing is that we've got it in different places. So for this month we've just put it on the Visit Ramsgate website, and there's a QR on there to get straight to the Visit Ramsgate website. But we'll be able to, like Dean has for community ads, for example, on Town Council, we'll have a page called the Ramsgate Events Calendar page, or REC, and people can click on that and then they can download copies. But there's also, it's in various places on the Visit Ramsgate website already, and it will go on to the Town Council one as well from next month, hopefully. But I'll speak to Dean about that.
And the other thing is the fact that people can download this as a PDF and print it out at home if they want to. So
Put it on your fridge,
which was the whole concept. That was exactly it. It was, and I put it up on Siren Snippets today, which is a huge WhatsApp group, to talk about capturing, as Councillor said, capturing new people that might be in the next one, as well as promoting this one. And somebody immediately commented, "Oh, it's great because I can pin it up, because I always forget when events are or where I saw them." So it is just having that physical copy. So yeah, that's happened in the last week.
is that everything you wanted to cover over your report?
Yes, I mean, I think everything else was to be noted. I think there's a second update from me about Ramsgate Lumiere going forward. And that's about, shall I go straight on to that?
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, let's do that now.
And did anyone have any questions about my report, my other update? So the Lumiere project is it's a.
Can I just pause you for just a minute, because I think one of the things that's I need to say here at this point is, to some extent, what we're talking about in this next section is dependent on a grant application that is still in hand and still to be decided in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we just need to bear that in mind as we're talking about this, please.
So the actual document that you have as the update is from a lighting event organiser called Jess Hudsley, who has been running events for the best part of 20 years, specifically around lights, projections, laser projections as well. And she now lives in Ramsgate, but she has put on events from around the London area and beyond, and worked with event organisers in a similar vein nationally. So it's building on the wonderful things we already have here, the organic growth of Ramsgate Illuminations, our switch on, the projects the Town Council we're looking to hopefully in the next few months realise, with the Harbour Arches and the obelisk, with St George's and the lantern, with the work Teresa has been doing, who's sitting here, with the lantern parades, which Teresa originally started in 2016 and has sort of managed to revive those in the last few years. But this particular document that I've given you is more about how it could be built upon in year 2, and where we've decided to forgo a fireworks display because of many reasons, one being the terrible weather and unfortunate position we now have to fire in, which is making that worse, and it always seems to be cancelled by the sensible advice from our expert coastguards and pyrotechnic experts, of course. So we're looking at alternatives. We know lasers have their problems, and we also know that drones they're also affected by weather, and they're incredibly expensive to be impactful. You'd be talking in excess of 25,000 for a display that could be ruined by the wind as well. So this idea is about creating something that is 6+ weeks long. We have our switch on this year. It's earlier than the earliest it can be, on the 4th of November. And the idea is that we build on having something leading from the harbour to St George's, for example. So you've got these 2 areas that are already well lit up, and creating something within the town centre, utilising empty shops, utilising the work with the lanterns that's already going on, working with communities and businesses to develop beautiful structures, or even things that are quite simple that we did in primary school, with crepe paper and stained glass and lighting, creating the lighting displays, to quite complex projections. And there's a beautiful one that Jess has shown me that involves, it looks like a bambi, and it projects, and it looks like it's walking around the street, and the video of it, you've got children actually trying to stroke it. It's quite extraordinary, to just, wonderful kaleidoscope projections and so on. But they would almost be a trail. Even this year, there's already 12. Yeah, there's already 12 shops that have agreed to do it, with quite a lot also expressing an interest.
More now.
So it's evolving all the time. But this particular project for next year is about actually, not only if we can get the things rolling this year, which will include a family parade on New Year's Eve, which is how it will culminate into that for this year. But next year, there would be the parade, plus there would be a type of midnight show for the older audience in our town and what they're used to. So it's an exciting opportunity to work with some people that are highly experienced and have the contacts and the equipment to create something quite unique for Ramsgate that complements what we're already doing with our amazing lights in Ramsgate. Not to mention, of course, the lights that we're about to have go live in the town centre. So yes.
I was just going to say that at this point, Councillor Sean, I'll come back to you in a moment. It is actually being a proposal that's coming forward from a consortium of 3 groups, so just repeat that. We've got Teresa here, who is one member of the consortium, so if there are any questions for Teresa that she may be able to answer about what they're hoping to get funding for to do this year, let alone what they might do next year, then she can answer it. But I'll take Councillor Shonker next.
Yeah, I'll probably just go through this for afterwards, spend 190,000. Is that at the bottom on all these events?
Can we haven't got to that yet.
No, but anyway,
That's the budget, and we haven't got to that yet.
I'll come back to that one.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
the budget in a minute. As soon as this part is over and we've done
Right.
item 7,
That's fine.
we'll move on to that. So,
That's
if
all
you
right.
don't mind. Does anyone want to ask any questions about the Lumiere that, I mean, this is kind of like this is spread out, but does anyone have any questions about this?
I mean, the committee is probably familiar, but I'm not familiar with what's proposed.
I think that this committee tonight, this is the first time this committee have been presented with this. The only people that will be, the only familiarity we have with it is the grants committee looked at this, and this is the one that's going to F&GP tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
Perhaps if Teresa could briefly.
I think yes. I think Teresa, you're the best person next.
I've prepared an update for that committee tomorrow, but I haven't circulated it yet. But broadly, the consortium is Great British Carnival, CRC, Jess, Hudsley Events, and St George's Church. And we want to launch this year the Ramsgate Lumiere, and the content is, it starts with the Christmas lights on, so St George's Church would be the first event, a light up and a concert. And then we would do Light Up Ramsgate, which would be a series of light installations and projections throughout the month, which would be some permanent installations in shops and some one-off events to draw a crowd that night. So we'd be really hoping to provide something for residents to bring their families to that's free and exciting and magical, but also helps pull that visitor footfall up into the town to support the shops and businesses. And there would be workshops throughout that period. They'll start earlier, actually. The workshops will start pretty soon in October. And we'd start the lantern making and also the structures. So some shops would be, quite low tech, sort of stuff people have made. And then others would be much higher level projections. And they would all accumulate in the lantern parade on New Year's Eve, which would be family friendly, but still a little bit late, partly because of the tides. And then our ambition is a fire sculpture to end it, which would be burning the Invector horse. So we had built, prefabricated, a large Invector horse rearing up. And then, exactly. So it would be exciting, is what we hope, and really bring the town to alive. And also, in my view, because we want to build it year on year, that's our ambition, because we would be the first town in Kent to have a Lumiere. I mean, they're quite common in France and increasingly common in London boroughs, and because we've got quite a lot of already beautiful content in the town, it would really provide a kind of fantastic frame that everything could be seen in. And we think it would really build towards making Ramsgate the premier Christmas visitor destination. It has that kind of potential. And my prediction is in 5 years' time, all the other Kent towns will be doing it. But they still can't bring what we've already got on the table to the party, can they? So, you know, we're obviously hoping to get the town council support. We've put in a large arts council bid. We've applied for lots of other small funds as well, and that's kind of ongoing in our enthusiasm for the Ramsgate Lumiere.
So would it kick off with our traditional?
It started our switch on. And then following on from our switch on would be the first part of the Lumiere event, which would be the first lantern parade, which would end at St George's. And in actual fact, Teresa is talking about this being the first year, but I'm actually of the Lumiere, but I'm actually recognising that some of this has been happening before, and so it's that we have a prototype of the Lumiere already from some of the things that Teresa has been organising last year, because there was an event at St George's.
Yeah, we did the St George's light up.
There was the switch on and the parade and the event at St George's last year.
And even a mini one the year before.
And then this year we'd have a lot more in it, because it would have the residents that would take you through the rest of this November and into December right up to the new year. So it's actually building on, in a way, what you have already touched your toes into this, but just not called it a Lumiere.
That's right, because I did the Safe Harbour Lantern Parade. I had £10,000 of lottery money, not last year, but the year before. And that was a big event, you know. We've got Legacy, Sammy Wants Some, came out of that. We built the St George's Lantern Tower as part of that. We first started borrowing giants because of that. So it's not coming out of nowhere. We've already laid foundations, but the real new element is the projections and the light installations in the shops. And even there, we would seek to involve, you know, obviously Advent Doors happens. We'd want them to carry on and put them in this bigger framework and then build on that. So it's all additionality. So then we can target shops that don't participate yet, or shops that are empty is the other place to be putting permanent installations and lighting. And I'm glad you've seen the pictures of the deer, because, you know, they are very, very sweet, and they can run because it's a portable projector. So yeah, we hope you all really go, oh, this is exciting, and get behind it.
Excitement on her face, can't you? Somebody wanted to ask a question.
But one more to make a comment. I have no involvement in this.
No.
But I did go to the Lantern Parade 2 years ago with my daughter, and I was fairly new to town, and I couldn't get over how fantastic it was. It was really family friendly. It was really good fun, and I thought it felt like it was advertised more at residents at the time. I thought, wow, I'm sure people would love to come and see this, and having that with the backdrop of Lumiere as well, I think it's a great idea. I do know as well, from a sort of family perspective, one of the restrictions of the fireworks at midnight, of course, is that younger kids aren't going to.
And we can't use lights on the water because it upsets the harbour people.
So it has just from a personal perspective, I've got no involvement in this at all. So I've not got an agenda.
Well, you're coming at it from the view as a young parent.
Yeah, and sort of as a visitor at the time. I mean, less so now, but I thought it was great.
Not anymore. Councillor Green.
Could I ask about publicity?
We've got a publicity budget. We'd be seeking to promote it heavily. I mean, I think the nice thing about it is it does work for residents. It works for people on low incomes, because the alternatives, which is, paying to go to Walmer Castle or where they've got, is a fortune. So it's really prohibitive for a lot of people. And so for Ramsgate families, this is something in the town that they can go to of an evening, and also works for visitors. So, we would be seeking to visit Kent and Rebecca, obviously. We'd want it, the more promotion, the better.
Was it too wide initially? Perhaps, I don't know.
Well, the thing with this is...
What you're thinking?
Well, people...
I'm thinking if you get huge crowds, then it's a problem to manage.
I think we already get quite a few, the crowds, obviously for the Ramsgate illuminations that we have at the harbour, it grows every year. What the idea of this is that, you know, and St George's is the natural use, as you all know, was part of the navigational tools for boats. So it's this natural trail, but it also involves our town centre, which is great for businesses there, where it's dark at 3:30 for quite a few days of the year.
I think I get Councillor Green's point. It's about stewardship and management of crowds.
That's right.
So I get where you're coming from.
I see that now.
In the first year,
Me and Jess,
you want a good crowd, but at the same time you don't want an unmanageable crowd. So
we are both extremely experienced major event organisers, so we'd be really aware about traffic management and crowd management. I mean, obviously our hope is to pull people into the shops and the restaurants, so we want to fill the town up, but we have to do that in a way that's, you know, we'll have our own public liability and we'll have anything that's outside the RTO order. And even anyway, you know, we'll have to just have all those risk assessments on every instance, because if it isn't safe, we wouldn't do it.
if I can just say, assuming we're going to be looking at late night opening for cafes at least, which maybe are not open of an evening at the moment, but there will be maybe some extra openings.
One would hope. I think it will take more than year one to convince the town that it's worth opening, because they're really cynical and discouraged, to be honest.
You only need a couple to start it off, don't you? To bite the bullet in year one.
But we've got the pubs and restaurants.
Thinking so, Rebecca.
Well, it's just, you know, this will be the 10th year from when 5 boats lit up, and then the following year we got in touch with BBC South East, and because there were 20 lit up, so it grew quite quickly in 1 year. But it's taken 7 years before Shipshape, for example, and they're the ones that have done this regularly, to open up every evening and be out there with their hot chocolate and their hot dogs, and they trial different things every year, but they've only been doing that for the last 3, maybe 4 years, because, you know, it takes a while for these things to develop. I'm not saying it would, because fortunately we've already got that, so we've got a draw.
No.
This will probably happen a little bit quicker.
It's filling it up, isn't it? Encouraging that crowd to linger. Is the word actually.
Lingering for longer.
Lingering for longer. Have your dinner while you're out.
To what extent do TDC and KCC need to be involved?
Well, until we know we can do it, we haven't worried ourselves so much about that immediate question. I mean, if TDC would need to be involved if we have to hire any land or we have to close any roads. Can't immediately think of any KCC. Unlikely. Maybe the one we might have to do is for the Lantern Parade, because depending what time.
But we've got.
Only till 5.
Effectively, we've already got that from RTC with the switch on, haven't we?
Well, that's for the smaller parade.
Because I was thinking of the New Year's Eve one.
Yeah, so it will need,
the New Year's Eve one. If I'm outside,
some of those things will be in place anyway. You may need to extend them on the times to fit with what you're doing, but there is an element of precedence there, so that it's not like you're coming in cold for that.
No.
Did you want to?
It's fine.
Do you have any other questions?
No.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions for Joanne?
12 weeks.
The only one comment I would make is, if we were looking at having suitable provisions for people arriving by car, I go back to the age-old problem of our multi-storey car park. You know, no lifts, grotty, feels unsafe, expensive, and to boot shuts at 7 p.m. every evening, which is only done since 2014, and that's something that else we should be considering. But that's just something to,
What
that I'm
about
commenting on.
in front of Ramsgate Music Hall? What about that car park?
Yeah, no,
Would
that's,
it be worth flagging that up if that open in the evenings
yeah,
as potential parking?
yeah.
Thank you. It is an issue, isn't it? If you're trying to attract visitors to the town, they will be coming by car, quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so, as I said at the beginning, although it's really, really good to hear, that to some extent this is not in our hands because you're still looking at the funding bits. And hopefully some of that we'll know more about fairly soon, a couple of weeks maybe, whatever that is. But it was something that we wanted to look at as a town promotion committee because we won't meet again for a while. So now, unfortunately, everything's kind of slightly out of sync. It was necessary that it came to this meeting for us to look at what you want to do before we can get the funding sorted out, because that's just the way the
Cookie
finance works, I'm afraid. So, are there any more questions about the Lumiere event? Has anyone got any concerns about it, or does anyone think actually it looks like a good idea?
Well, hopefully we'll release the money tomorrow,
That's what I want to do.
so long as we quorate.
Yeah. I mean, I do believe.
So it needs you to turn up tomorrow.
And I remember. I do believe that this is, we have quite a few different events going on. Some of them are RTC, some of them are other people. This really has the capacity to join the dots and expand on the picture. And for that reason, I think, there's a great value in the funding of it. That's my view. But I'm only one vote, and we'll have to see what comes out of the decision making for the grant funding. So we're doing the next stage of that tomorrow night, as Councillor Green has just said, and I think the next one is the next full council a couple of weeks after that, isn't it? So it will be another couple of weeks before we can take the discussion on this. In fact, by the time I think the next meet as town promotion, it will be halfway through, won't it? We're doing December, I think, next town promotion. Yeah, so November. So it will be happening or not, as the case may be. But I don't think there was any other questions. I'm looking at Councillor Green because
I don't have any.
Right, okay. In that case, I'm going to move on to the next agenda item. You're welcome to hang around if you want to.
I thought I was here to speak about the carnival.
Sorry?
I thought I was here in case there were questions about the carnival.
Oh yes, we're here for that as well.
That's what I thought I was
Yes.
I didn't know you were doing the Lumiere.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Well, we're looking at okay, item 7, working group minutes. Just to receive and note the minutes from the previous working group meetings. Everyone okay with that? It was just literally to receive them. Some blanks to indicate yes. Yes, thank you. I will just note that Councillor Ara has left. There are still 3 voting members of this committee in the room, and that does mean that we are still for it. So just for the record for that. Right, that takes us up to the most exciting element of any town promotion committee in the year, budget setting. And actually, I am really quite genuinely excited about budget setting. I find it really good. I had a play with the word clouds, so that's just for your entertainment. I was slipping around it in the middle. I know, I did have to keep resetting it a few times to get Ramsgate absolutely minimal. I did try several versions, and I actually had one in the shape of a crab as well, but it was a little bit too. Not yet. On that one, I'll tell you where they are. Okay, can I get you to do the copy for me? So I just need the next page. Okay, so I'm going to do a hopefully fairly short presentation. I will take questions at the end. And so this is broadly the little agenda for this presentation. Next page. So first off, I wanted to start with a review of town promotion. What does it mean, promoting the town? That's what it says on the tin. And these are the 4 questions that I've started with. So what is Ramsgate's identity? What are Ramsgate's strengths? What do our neighbours do? I'll come back to that one in a minute. And what makes Ramsgate different from our neighbours? One of the things that I've said recently as chair of town promotion, it's felt a bit like I'm navigating a plate of spaghetti. There is so much involved in public town promotion that it has sometimes felt that there's just too many directions. And so one of the things that I'm doing with this review, and I have done this actually partly in response to a request from the town clerk, so it's not just come out of nowhere. So that's where, let's go on. So the next one is, maybe just a quick look at who, what our neighbours do. Margate has a long history as a day trips destination, dreamland, amusement arcades, and I remember the days of Kiss Me Quick Hats. Margate's image, and I'm sure Councillor Schultz will also, Margate's image has always been a bit brash. And even though there's the turn of contemporary and the cultural development of the old town, softening the image, it's still quite the same old Margate. So thinking just a little bit about Broadstairs, we've got an old Dickensian type thing here. Back in the 60s and 70s, I always knew it as an old people's home area. These days it's much better known for its nightlife, and it's got quite a niche identity. It's closest in tourist offering to Ramsgate and Margate, particularly compared to recent history with its Folk Week, Dickens Week and food festivals, which in themselves have brought about a nightlife scene. And then just thinking about Ramsgate, before the old cheap flights to Spain came in the 60s and 70s, this area was rich with bed and breakfast, guest houses, holiday flats. It was especially attractive for families with younger children who wanted a child-friendly, relaxing holiday. We've lost the old guest houses, but we do have some new hotels, and of course we do still have the holiday flats. But even through it, Ramsgate still remains an attractive option for the modern family. And so, in a lot of ways, Ramsgate hasn't really changed its identity either. So the 3 towns have remained fairly consistent. There are changes, and increasingly Ramsgate's become a destination choice for younger adults, which is something that has been proved through Simon's research for Active Ramsgate, so that's become more apparent. So, I wanted to look at Ramsgate's strengths, and we've got Active Ramsgate. I don't know the exact date, Dave might be able to fill me in, but it was founded about 10 years ago. We recently brought the management of it back in-house, and it's been, over the years, a really important part of developing Ramsgate's image as a holiday destination. And we have a variety of activities for families of all ages. So I've just put on here a little tiny touch of some of the things that are covered here. So you've got walking, cycling, there's photography, there's bird watching, I just had to put etc. on there. So the second strength that I looked at was, actually interestingly, I referred to earlier what Julia was saying, and that's Heritage Ramsgate. We have the only Royal Harbour. We're investigating this, but we think it's probably the only Royal Harbour in the world, let alone in Britain. It is a working harbour, as we said earlier, one where you can actually get close in. And linked with heritage, we have our civic events, and of course we have a completely separate civic budget. We have some of the highest concentrations of listed historic buildings anywhere, and of course we've got the tunnels and historic parks, and we've got traditional seaside events such as the Carnival, for example. The third strength, and I am racing through this a little, is what I'm calling cultural Ramsgate. This one's a little bit more, encompasses a little bit more variety. There's a bit missing off of that one. Okay, we've got another screen after this. Nope, go back. Okay, there are some words missing off of this particular screen, don't quite know what happened there. We do have quite a vibrant nightlife, and there's various live music venues. The Granville Theatre's recently opened. There are a lot of independent art galleries. There are community arts activities all over the place. Festival of Sound we've recently had. There's the Discovery Planet. Oh no, the two slides have all merged. I did have that presented with one thing on one side and one on the other, so something went wrong there. So we've got community arts activities and we've got cultural events going on. So bringing that on to the next one, bringing those three together, our identity, our strengths, bringing them together, we've got active Ramsgate, heritage Ramsgate and cultural Ramsgate. I've done it as a Venn diagram because actually there's a lot of overlap. Heritage Ramsgate and active Ramsgate is very easily drawn together through the walking trails. There are workshops between cultural and heritage Ramsgate. There are well-being activities, which I've kind of put under what's active Ramsgate, but it also fits under cultural Ramsgate. Some of these have been talked about. So again, I've got the carnival in there, it kind of fits in with all of them. So moving on to the next one. So that was the strengths together. Bringing that in, there are not just those activities that town promotion deals with. The other part of town promotion is what I've called the underpinning provision. We historically have, don't worry Trevor, you can have that on a piece of paper in a minute, is the beautification and maintenance. So we've had many discussions about the type of beautification over the years. This is the work of our technicians. It's about keeping our public spaces well presented. They do a lot of gardening work. They support our volunteer gardening groups. And there's a lot of work done in the servicing and equipment maintenance. And the second part of the underpinning provision that I consider is what I just lumped together as miscellaneous. And I'm subheading that comms and marketing because the kind of things that are covered with there are things like the website, the VIC. Also within that is the work that we do with TDC. There is a budget for that, which we'll come to later. And then the other thing that I was just thinking about earlier today, which I shouldn't have a slide for, and no, I haven't got a slide for, that's good, is actually in many ways this same diagram actually is also true for Ramsgate Town Council because we have civic and mayoral functions, we have town promotion, and then we have a community role that involves our allotments, Radford House, community ad magazine, and we also have the technicians, officers and staff with comms and marketing providing the support and maintenance. So that's really where I got to, that's been a bit of a race through, to where I got to the background thinking. Now, all of this has come out of discussions with Rebecca, Dean, the town clerk, and also Councillor Huxley as the vice chair. So this is a culmination of those discussions. So if we can move on, I'll just put that picture in there for give me a little break. I'm going to first to look at this year's budget, because one of the things that the town clerk asked me to do was to make some changes to this year's budget and take some things out. So the things that are in red and blue, the ones in red will be coming out of town promotion budget completely, and the blue one is going to be moved out of active Ramsgate and into the main town promotion budget. So if we just go on to the next slide. So what you'll see is the previous slide showed that our budget for 24-25 was £200,030. If we take out those items that the town clerk asked me to remove, the equivalent budget for 24-25 is £190,030. And this is the bit where we now go back. So I can now, just for you to refer to, if I can hand those out, so I'm going to pass them on. Oh, we'll need some over this side as well. Because I've moved away from the slide that shows my little diagrams, This is just to make it easier for you to compare the headings that I'm working to. So the next step that Dean, Rebecca and I did was, particularly is to move those headings into Venn diagram headings. So if I can just get Dean to go on to the next page. Okay, so using the new headings that we had here, these are exactly the same figures as I had for 24-25. They're just under new headings, so there's absolutely nothing different here. Everything still fits together. We've lost nothing, we've gained nothing particularly new there. And you can see from the total 190,030. If you want to pause a little bit to kind of get your head around that, but that is exactly what we had before. Everyone okay with that so far? Councillor Huxley.
What was work with TDC? £3,000.
Okay, Rebecca, can you answer that one?
So that was what Julie was presenting to you guys today. So Dean and I have been working with Julie. This will be our second year of this programme. So it's the same amount that we put in last year.
It does cover more than that, though, doesn't it? But it can cover more than that. But it's just expenses that come out of what is involved with working with TDC.
It allows us to pay for more expensive national and beyond advertising. It's mainly a marketing campaign, adding things like competitions. And experiences in the town where they're paid for within this budget as well.
I think if I sum it up, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like they buy in things and we buy them off TDC.
Yeah.
So it works more like that. But that is still last year's budget. So looking at moving on to this year's proposals. Councillor Green.
You had 45,000 in there for new projects last year.
Can you go back?
What did they get spent on?
The new projects last year, if you remember, was the Rebecca, the obelisk.
So they were the harbour arches, the obelisk, and I believe some of the wayfinding and street art funding. So that's things like the new signpost, which we had some match funding for, but Ramsgate Town Council also added. But Dean, I'm also looking at you there, and that's what the new projects. Yeah.
We split them out last year and called it new projects. It was basically it was really a part of the council events costs, excluding civic. But because these were very, very specific projects that Rebecca was working on, for last year we did split them out, and it was, I don't think we've got the breakdown on the new projects from last year. It was broken down in last year's budget what those new projects were, and there were 4 of them, weren't there? Because I think the banners at the top of the High Street was the other one, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, there was 22 allocated to the harbour arch lighting. 15 to the obelisk lighting, and then around 12, I believe, for several different things around street art and wayfinding, which includes potentially banners.
Yeah, I did steal from other elements of the town promotion budget in order to get those projects that we called it new, but they had already begun, but we needed to actually allow for the cost of them. So we lumped them together under a heading new projects last time. And I do remember that the Harbour Lights was quite high, wasn't it? But yeah. Is that okay, everyone?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go to the next bit. I'm starting with the underpinning provision. For me, it's if you don't get the foundation right, then the house will collapse. And I was keen this year to look at actually increasing the funding for particularly maintenance and the marketing. So miscellaneous support at the bottom is a lot of that is around communication and marketing. So it's the Visit Ramsgate marketing, the Visit Ramsgate website, the Visitor Information Centre and work with TDC. A lot of that money is about marketing. We've also had come to council quite recently, and I didn't even know about that when I actually wrote this, obviously for the environment of the money for the emergency work that was needed by the technicians on maintenance. Our technicians do an amazing job keeping things running on a shoestring, but I just felt that we needed to give more attention to this. One of the reasons here is that the decorative lighting that we got as the last minute levelling up funding money is going to require us to, it's going to be more expensive for us to maintain than previous projects that we've had. That's right, that's where we got that from, wasn't it? If I remember rightly, yeah. So the breakdown in the box in the middle is an approximation. It's what roughly we think the maintenance will be. I'm not splitting it out because I want the technicians to be able to use that wisely. I know that they are very keen on doing everything as economically as they can. And outside of this meeting, Dean is the one that monitors it, so we know that roughly that is what we're expecting the cost per section, but it's not broken down as a hard, they've got to meet those figures. And the same with the beautification budget, that's never been broken down either. We don't specify how much Charlotte Court costs and the care and palms, so they are to be seen as total figures, and that's an overall increase. So before I go on to the next one, is there any extra questions on that?
Could I just say something about the VIC?
Yeah.
I mean, they do a great job acting as reception really for the town council, which is which saves us an enormous amount of money. And they do have, it is a place for the leaflets, where some town folk can come and find out what's happening. But it would be better, in my view, if they had the facility to go out to events, to share information about other things that are going on in the town. In other words, go to the crowd rather than expecting the crowd to come to us.
I do get where you're coming from, because this is it's not an easy building to get into. It is easy to get into, but it's not one that you would automatically think to go into to look for an information centre. I think, Rebecca, perhaps if I can ask you, thinking about, because it's run entirely by volunteers, of course, they're not paid or anything.
It's actually quite difficult to achieve unless they want to go to the event, and sometimes that can happen. So, for example, for the harbour launch this last week,
we'd need a stall, if you like.
Yeah.
To encourage.
And they have done it. They've done it for a couple of events that I've organised, but also most recently the harbour. They went to that, the Heritage Harbour launch. A few of them did, but you hit the nail on the head. They are volunteers. And they also have their very specific time slots, which are all filled Monday to Saturday, 10 to 4 in the summer months and 11 to 3 in the winter. They're also quite busy people. So
some of them would like to go to earn a few quid through going to an event. I personally would support that.
I will certainly put it to them if we can talk about figures, and I can say,
Just for the sake of this meeting, I'll just add, of course, that Rebecca manages the VIC and the volunteers there for those that aren't aware, which is why I asked you to come in. It will add some cost to the VIC if they are going out. There's a lot of that is that VIC money comes out comms and marketing rather than supporting the volunteers themselves. So we would need to look at that. I think it's a good idea. I mean, so like for example, Ramsgate Day when we had it recently, they could have had a stall in the middle of.
Yeah. But the VIC is well signposted. You know, it is on all of our wayfinding that we funded as a town council. There's banners there's a banner as you're walking towards VIC.
I'm not criticising it at all.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying,
it's
and
great.
it's also accessible. You know, we've just had the festival of sound. One of the sonic heralds here, and Mike Willis, who's in a wheelchair, and he found it a very accessible building. So, you know, it has, and it has now been here a good 8-9 years, I think.
More, I think.
Maybe more.
I think it's about 2011.
Well, it's when TDC gave up on.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's 2011, Chair.
But it's certainly something I can suggest them, and if there's hard cash involved, then they might know.
For Rebecca to look at and see what the volunteers say. You know, if it's something that they would be willing to do, because volunteers we can't make them do anything, and possibly also look at how other ways, not just using the volunteers, that there might be ways that we could take the VIC out of the building. There's Teresa just mentioned there are stalls at the carnival on the Thursday, on the Saturday. So
Both days, in fact.
yeah. So yeah, Councillor Shonker.
VIC, does it make any money down there like they used to? Do they
No.
don't sell tickets or nothing? It's a shame because it's
You're right.
it's self-funded,
But no, not anymore. What happened was COVID killed that. We lost so much of that income because people stopped coming in to the VIC to buy tickets, and I think to some extent the world has changed a little bit in that, and people are much more buying those tickets online. I think Rebecca and Dean might be able to fill in a little bit more about the figures, because I've not actually had the figures from them recently, but do you doing them?
We're still doing them, they're very, very rare and in between, but since COVID we've lost about 90% of the income.
You're right, it was a good piece of income, but we just don't have that anymore.
Because at the moment, the world's gone mad. All people of an older persuasion, they're not all online to go get their tickets. And we've moved ourselves from that social contact.
Yeah. We're maintaining the offer for that purpose, but the reality is people are no longer taking it up for whatever reason. And I think maybe, many of the people that were coming in have now gone online or are actually still not travelling. Because that's, I don't know what impact on the coach tours and everything else that we were selling tickets for, but no, unfortunately, we've had a lot of discussion about this some months ago about promoting the ticket sales, and
I think also the commission has gone down. So what it was when it was up there, when it was, making a profit even, the commission on the 10% of the sales that we now get is less than it was then.
But as I say, it saves the council employing a receptionist, which is not insignificant.
Absolutely, the VIC provides more than just visitor information in that sense, and it is very valuable in that. So, are there any? So as I say, this is the underpinning provision. I wanted to start with that because I think that is really important that we get that part right. I have also, you notice, split out beautification and maintenance, but that's because I have put a lot more money into maintenance. Especially, I'm glad I've done that after last week's environment need for maintenance. So. I have now created a new budget heading for that because just mixing that in with beautification is just too complicated. So any other questions on that bit? Councillor Shonker.
I would ask these questions now. Is that open to all the general public to see where our money's going, their money? Can they see that?
Yes, I think they can, can't they? I mean, this, for a start of this meeting.
I mean, because people say, oh, we spend a lot of money, well, if everything's going to be open and transparent, and they will see that, they can see where.
This meeting is public. We're not in closed session, so everything I'm talking about here is open. The budget will be published once it is finally agreed. I don't think my proposals tonight are published.
The recommended to finance budget
Yeah.
recommendation.
So the final screen that I will show you at the end. So what won't be published is the breakdown that I've done for maintenance, for example. And as I said, I've deliberately kept that vague because...
I'll take one or two photographs.
That's fine, it's fine, it's not...
Obviously, if it's going to be sort of private amongst us, I would share it, but...
It's not a secret, but to be honest, they're guesstimates. We think the decorative lighting is going to cost around about £10,000 a year. Last year, our events equipment maintenance was £1,000. We know that there is going to be more expenses this year, and I've doubled it. And I've left in a general project maintenance of £2,000 so that if there's needs here and there. The Harbour Street gate requires some maintenance, which is very, very low, 300. But then you've got this kind of general bit that can be moved around the others. At the end of the year, and I'm going to rely on Dean to keep a track, he will know broadly at the end of the year to what extent those figures turned out to be accurate. And when we come to do the budget setting for next year, we'll be able to say, well, actually, you know, we didn't spend as much on decorative lighting, but the events equipment turned out to be more expensive. So those are the kind of things. He's got horrendous looking spreadsheets all over the place. I just walk out the room and I saw.
So we're hoping to keep in budget then?
Yeah, so the main thing is that the maintenance will remain within the 14,300. If it needs to go beyond that, if there is something that happens, just as there happened that came up very recently for the environment, then that will have to be addressed. But the regular maintenance, we're looking at 14.3 for the year. But the breakdown of how that's spent within that budget, I'm not asking the technicians. It's too much for the technicians to try and worry about this, that and the other. If it costs 350 for the Harbour Gate, I don't want to have to borrow money between the Harbour Gate and something else. So that's why. And the beautification has never been broken down before, and I've not done that this time. In fact, beautification has lost a bit of money because it's lost the maintenance, hasn't it? So, because I've split the maintenance out. So there are some minor changes at the bottom. Visit Ramsgate website is what moved from the active Ramsgate. I did increase the marketing. This is to benefit some of the marketing needs that Rebecca has. I'd like to see more marketing coming up. That's pittance that I've added there. VIC no change, the work with TDC no change, and the town promoter expenses is... Rebecca, I've never said this to Rebecca before, but I think of it as Rebecca's petty cash. It covers, very often, it covers communication and marketing, but it also, when we do the volunteer gardeners lunch, networking lunch, it covers the expenses for that. So it's a sort of a bit of a miscellaneous figure. She doesn't go out and spend it all on herself, trust me. So are you okay if I move on to the next one, which is the main part? So we've done the underpinning. Okay, so active Ramsgate is getting no change in its budget. Unusually this year, I have asked Simon to give us a rough breakdown of how he intends to spend his budget. Previously, we've not even had that much information, so these are Simon's figures of what he intends to work to for everything that he will be doing over that year. But there is no actual increase. So again, that middle column is really just for information for this meeting. It can go to the F&GP and it can go beyond that, but that's just a rough idea. So if you've got any questions on that, aim them at Simon, because I told him to stay for that purpose. Otherwise he'd have gone home by now. So anything on that one? We've never had a breakdown before, have we, Dave?
No.
Not from the,
I would have expected it to rise a bit, but
sorry?
I would have expected it to increase a bit. Just,
We can if you want me
just from
to.
an inflation point of
We
view.
can if you want me to, Dave. I can twiddle the figures. We can increase the whole TP budget. So,
Carry on.
okay, so this is really going back, looking at my Venn diagram. I've had Heritage Ramsgate and Cultural Ramsgate. I toyed with splitting them, like Active Ramsgate, into two headings, but they kind of overlapped a lot more and they were fine. What I have separated out, as always, we've done this before, is the council events and the community events. So no massive changes here, or nothing overly unexpected here. The Christmas summer lights, Rebecca assures me that that can be much reduced from last year's figure. I think it was 20,000 last year, but I'm assured that we only need 8. We did agree last year that we would look at a New Year's event, and so at the moment that is to be decided for 2025. Rebecca's not really yet working on that, but we may yet find that we have a Lumiere event that might save that and solve that question. But it's in there at the moment because that is what we agreed last year. Ramsgate Day has run for 2 years now. I'm sorry that Councillor Ara has gone because I know this was something that she initiated a couple of years ago. And after the last one, which was very successful, we would like, and this is Rebecca's suggestion, to bring it under the town promotion, on the town promoter for the organisation and management of that. So I don't know if Rebecca, at that point, you want to say anything?
Obviously, I will just be working closely with the event organiser, which I have done in the past, but we collaborate quite well, and it will just give us, it will make it easier for us to develop it going forward. So, but no, at this point.
So it will come under Rebecca's umbrella. Obviously, she is not going to do all of the exact work, as she's just said.
What did it cost this year?
Well, actually, because it ended up being a short notice event again, it came in at around 3.8. But we had some things that we just didn't do because the problem was the budget was not as much as they'd hoped. So we cut things away, and then other things made some money, or didn't have to spend so much money on that. So we had some final money
So that's enough.
to be able to do.
So,
Yeah. So in fact, it came in under that. It was under that budget, and there's even a little bit left because the other people invoice and they invoice for less. So it all worked quite nicely, which has allowed us to have some merchandise and promoting money now.
as long as 5K is enough.
I think 5 going forward, but there's also, because it's under the council events now, there's an opportunity to top it up if necessary.
I don't know if you remember, Councillor Green, but I can't remember the figure that was put in to the grants to the community events fund, but we underfunded it. We didn't give them the full amount that they wanted, and Councillor Ara sent a begging email around all councillors to top it up from our.
We gave £100 each.
And I think we were all asked if we could get £200, 200 out of our ward grants. And so the only reason that actually it was as successful as it was because individually as councillors we topped up.
Yeah, because there was a shortfall.
It was quite a significant shortfall. I think they asked for 5,000 and we got 2 or something, and it was quite a significant shortfall. So that's the only reason. And the other thing is, because it actually was very successful for the last 2 years, bringing it into the council events budget does secure the event. Whereas if they were underfunded again next year, we could lose it. Because, you know, if we can't get the money out of the community events fund, we could lose those things. So that was the other thing, my thinking, apart from what Rebecca was saying, that was my thinking, is it does secure the funding for it, because we're moving it into the council events. So the last bit is, well, it's one that we've always had. It's council events. I've merged it with the new events and the new projects. This is Rebecca's fund for anything that comes up during the year. It's a development fund, but it's also a contingency fund. So, for example, it was out of this fund that we did when the Queen died, and there was unexpected events. So it's a contingency fund for unexpected events. It's the one that I am asking FNGP tomorrow from this year's fund to wire it into the events fund to top it up, because we underspent on it. But I'm leaving it in there at that level. It's much reduced from last year, but I'm leaving it in there because it does give us that flexibility within the fund if something comes up that has been unexpected. Sometimes it will come out of the civic fund, depending on what it is. Sometimes it comes out of town promotion, and it is much reduced from last year's council events budget. So that's the flexible one there. So any other questions on that?
Are little ships coming next year?
Oh,
that's one of the ones where because the day is something I put a request in for funding 5 years ago for next year, and there wasn't really an appetite for it then, and I have a feeling there'll be less of an appetite with everything that's going on in the world, particularly in Europe, and thinking about how for D-Day we had a significant amount of funding that did put on quite a muted affair, appropriately in my opinion, and I know that was what council wanted as well. So, but next year we do have the 85th anniversary of the Little Ships Operation Dynamo, and I'm already working with the Little Ships Association and Royal Temple Yacht Club. And yes, I have put, I think it was in my last report or even this one, about how we would like to think about supporting that, and again, that money could be used.
Is that within that?
Yes, it could be used for, in my opinion, yes, because what I'd like to do is almost, that could be the starting ground for us to invite the little ships, perhaps for an annual pilgrimage thereafter, as they are diminishing, they are old boats, but Ramsgate is close to their heart.
We usually entertain them, don't we, in some way?
Absolutely. So
I think, does any of that come out of the civic fund? I'm not sure. Either way, that is, I mean, I could only just put a tiny bit of examples in there, but you're right, those are some of the other things that could come out of that funding in 25-26. So, as I say, it's a fund there for Rebecca for development and for contingency. So whatever comes under that, that's what that's there for. Councillor Shonk.
None of our events make any money. So, just a question.
Not really. I don't think they ever have they?
No.
Just a question.
They never have. I mean, this is really about us supporting the community. And, you know, if there's any money comes in, all it will do is cover costs rather than, or contribute towards costs rather than be an income generation. And given Ramsgate's, our population's financial situation, we're not going to be making money off off of these kind of events. So in that case, I'm left with community events. Now I'm actually making a really new suggestion this year, and that is that we introduce this. This is very similar to what we're doing with Ramsgate Day, but I'm keeping it under community events rather than council events, and that is to introduce anchor funding for 2 events. I'm proposing Ramsgate Carnival and Miss Ramsgate. Now, Rebecca Dean and I Rebecca and I in particular, had a long conversation about what events could be eligible or we would want to consider for anchor funding. Were we looking at heritage events? Were we looking at cultural events? Basically, Ramsgate Carnival and Miss Ramsgate are probably the only 2 events that are heritage events. We have a lot of other events have been going on regularly for years, and we heard about Festival of Sound earlier, among other things. But there are lots of different music events, arts events, cultural events. But the Carnival and Miss Ramsgate are quite unique in that they are very, very much linked with your typical seaside community event, and so that is why I'm suggesting it for those events. The reason is again similar to what we've done with Ramsgate Day. By allocating it out of the budget at the beginning, I'm calling it anchor funding, and that's for that reason. It gives the organisers of both of those events a much more an open door to getting other funding from other organisations because they already have funding allocated. Now, at the moment, our organisations get about 2 months' notice at best of funding being allocated before their event happens. Sometimes it might be a little bit longer, but it is very short notice. To organise some of these things, the earlier you have funding in place, the more you can get other funding in, the more you can organise and pay for and get set up once you have that security. Rather like Rebecca said about the money coming in very late for Ramsgate Day meant that certain things couldn't happen because it was just too late. These community events will benefit in the same way. So would all of our community events, don't get me wrong, because I mentioned Festival of Sound and I think Rebecca mentioned the International Film Festival that we have, and there's plenty of other events, but as I say, I've come back to heritage events. Now, if I can slip onto the next screen.
Well, Miss Ramsgate will be controversial.
I know that they potentially both will, but let's...
No, I don't think the Carnival will.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, Councillor Green, and so is Teresa, for absolutely brilliant reasons. The figures that we've come up with, let me just explain. I asked Dean for the figures for the last 5 years because I wanted to see what had happened over 5 years. I have spoken to both Teresa and to Marion and Roger and asked whether they're willing for this to be put forward, and they have both agreed that they are willing for this to be put forward. I have liaised with the town clerk as to the viability of whether or not this would work, and the town clerk is also supportive of it. So what we did struggle a little bit with Miss Ramsgate was as you can see, for 3 years they were funded from the Events Fund, and then for the last 2 years they were funded from the Ramsgate Fund because we were funding black bags and handbags, so we were funding equipment. However, looking at budget, if you add travel subsistence and sundries, which would be relevant to the Events Fund, then it came to 3,328 or something like that. So I rounded that up and called it 3,500. There's a lot that they also add in costs. They have never included in their costs 150 machine loads of laundry every year.
and drying and everything else, I have discovered. It's just not in there. And neither, as a result of this council's suggestions and pressure, have they actually charged for the additional storage costs that they're incurring, because they're carrying outfits and equipment and extras over the years, so they can't all use the same outfit the next year. This year, the girls' sizes range from a size 6 to a size 18. Now, the odds of getting 4 girls in those same 4 sizes next year, it's not that great. So there is a limit to how much they can use that. So they are storing a lot of this. The condition would be with them that there will be no additional applications for the Ramsgate Fund, and the figure is a slight increase on the last one. Now, I do know that there will be discussion over this. We'll see what happens. It's my proposal. They attend roughly 65 events a year as ambassadors for Ramsgate. And certainly other courts attend Ramsgate as ambassadors for their area. So there is a really massive output as far as selling Ramsgate is concerned. And for the 4 girls themselves, this is an amazing life-changing experience. I can give you some stories that I've been given, but Councillor Huxley.
Just in the last Community Ad magazine,
Exactly.
they had quite a good sort of personal account of the 2 girls who,
And some of these costs, those girls will go out at 10 o'clock in the morning, they won't get home till nearly midnight on a day out, and that's why there's the subsistence and travel costs involved. Councillor Shonk.
I do declare an interest in this because I am the president of the carnival. No monetary gain. No monetary gain. It actually cost me money, but like you say, it's a great organisation. What it does for them young ladies into women, and it has done.
Well, I mean, for example, the kind of things that they experience as young people, I think it's 14 they start at, isn't it? 14, yeah. I mean, if I think back to when I was 14, I don't think I'd ever been out to eat in a proper restaurant with several layers of cutlery at 14. That's the kind of thing that they're learning. I mean, I don't suppose young people today do that any more than I did 15 years ago. So these are experiences these girls are getting that
they just need to say that though, and I think that article did bring that home.
Yeah.
So they need to advertise what they actually do and how it benefits the girls.
That is something that I'm hoping that will come out of the discussion.
Because I don't think some of that's come out before.
No, it hasn't. It really hasn't. And I, as I say, I met with both Teresa and I met with Marion and Roger before I actually put this in, because I wanted to know that they were in agreement with the same. So that's that one. Any other questions on this Ramsgate? No. In that case, the other one was the carnival. Now, I spoke to Teresa, and the core costs that have to be paid out before anything else can happen, licences, road closures, medical supplies, portaloos, whatever else you think, will come to around about 7,000 or 8,000. That is a little bit of a guesstimate. They have only had an average of €3,000 a year over the last 5 years, but looking at those core costs, I'm suggesting 6,000 to cover the basics. Then they've got the anchor funding, the same as Miss Ramsgate, to go out and get more money from elsewhere. So I don't know if Teresa, you want to add anything to that?
I really would. I mean, it would be. I mean, it was 101 years old last time, so it's properly a heritage event. But it's not a fossil. It constantly reinvents itself. It's the largest community event in Ramsgate. We were seriously constrained by insecurity of funding last year because we just couldn't guarantee that we could meet all the costs, which stops us, it stopped me booking additional spectacle, because I wasn't certain if I'd raise the money or not, and I certainly wasn't going to be the chair who bankrupt Ramsgate Carnival. And I think the fact that we have that security and we haven't got to wait and put into the events fund will be transformative for our confidence about knowing we can buy things, guaranteeing the event can go ahead. And I'm confident about our fundraising, in fact, because that's, you know, I've been the chair for 2 years, and I can tell you that I'm quite pleased with it. Because I have been entrepreneurial, because I've been worried about the security of the funding. So I opened the Saturday up to an additional event and to traders, and we went from, hang on, I've got it here somewhere, on my many lists of what we did. Oh yeah, so in 22 we got 450 commission from the fairground that's there for 2 days. In 23 we got 750, this year we got 900, which reflects our increased footfall, right? And the same with the stalls, we went from 450 in 22 to 940 in 23 and 1,470 this year. The street collection was up, we got sponsor this year. So, but we are all volunteers, right? So it's hard to find time to get people to put their work in. It's doing all the, just getting the permissions and stuff. Do you know what I mean? I do this for a living, and I do it as a volunteer in Ramsgate. And I'm amazed that I do it as a volunteer because it's a proper job, you know. So I think this really can put the carnival in a very safe space that it isn't in at the moment. You know, it's a real battle. So I'd be so delighted. That's all I've got to say about that.
I asked Teresa, I'm not knocking the carnival, but it was changed this year. The crowds were there, but the carnival wasn't. I think a group of people went down Harbour Street and they thought that was the end of it. So if we're going to start spending good money on all parts of the carnival, I know it's hard to bring back that magic of a carnival, but if we don't, we're not going to have a carnival.
Yeah. I do know that there are very good reasons that happens.
Yeah, can I talk about that? Yeah, so, okay, carnivals are changing and they have to change because they're not fossils, right? So the current route is really based on the idea that everyone's on vehicles. 20 years ago, all the building firms could lend everybody the vehicles, they didn't have to pay, now they have to get public liability, risk assessments, hire them. So it's harder and harder for people to be in the carnival. So I had 2 reasons, and also more and more people walk, right? I run a samba band myself, as you know. My samba band has got 1/3 adults with special educational needs. We physically can't do that route, and when I put them through it, quite a lot of people passed out. So I had 2 things that I wanted to try. I wanted to try, did people want a shorter route? Would it work? And could the 2 things work together? So, and also the greening of carnival because of all the associated costs and the future-proofing it. So at the entry point, when you filled in your form, for this year asked people to try and help us measure the carbon footprint of the carnival and look at how many people were pedestrianised, how many people were walking, and how many people wanted to walk. So the groups that wanted to walk were my own SAMP group because of the disabled adults, and we were in a cooperation with St George's Church. We had that great big church tower. Now you'll remember the heat of that day. They couldn't have pulled that up that hill. My disabled adults couldn't walk up that hill, and Gazooks, who are the other group, always walk off at that point anyway. They don't ask anybody, they just go. And then the other group was a woman, granddaughter and a grandmother hula hooping. So the 3 groups that all said they wanted to turn off, and I took them off. Now, people said that I took more than half the carnival up, but I didn't. I took 3 groups to try it out, right? But the other problem is the stewards. Now, you would think that as chair of Ramsgate Carnival, I might be a bit more in control of the stewards than I am, right? But what they do is they stop the vehicles. So the Carnival Road Traffic Management Plan comes down and it's supposed to regroup at the harbour. And then it's supposed to move off again in a bolt. But for some unknown reason, our stewards make the vehicles go up one at a time. And this leads to massive gaps. So I tried to stop it. I went back to our Nigel.
I think to be fair to the stewards, motorists today are so bloody ignorant. They know the carnival's on there and they interrupt the carnival because they've got to get from A to B. And they've done that up at Government Acre They were doing it down in town. They were doing it down near Elms Avenue, because I watched the whole carnival come round. So it is
It is difficult to manage, but I honestly, I promise you, because I've gone over it with Nigel England, right, and I don't know why the message hasn't got through to the stewards, but there is no advantage in stopping the vehicles and sending out them one at a time, because it causes massive delays, makes the people on East Cliff frustrated, and also makes it more likely that cars will break in through but for all the reasons we're pointing out, like the lack of funding, those are volunteer stewards, right? Do you know what I mean? And so I think this is a problem that we've got to look at, and I want to do a public consultation about changing the route. I think we can make both go, but even though it was on the entry forms, and even though it was in the Isle of Thanet Gazette, and even though it was people still didn't know.
I'm not pulling that apart, because I had a lot of feedback.
Please.
And I've done a carnival. I said, have you ever done a carnival? I said, no. Well, I said, don't complain about it, because I used to be there 7:30 in the morning, still be there 9:30 at night, without fault. So no good complaining. Do it yourself, then you know.
Yeah, it is all volunteers, and I was sad that it was New Thanet Chat, and as many people came out to defend the carnival as criticised it, but the criticism really was, it's not what it used to be. Well, you know what? It isn't what it used to be, for all the reasons I've just pointed it out, and that's why looking at the route is future-proofing it, because I think the carnival can be lively, but there are still challenges it's got to face.
I think one of the other things that you've not mentioned that has been a problem in the past is that we have had vehicle breakdowns because clutches burnt out by crawling up that hill.
You can see why I'm against it.
That's actually why the stewards stop them. They say, right, you're turning up, and then you can just drive up. And otherwise you're in first gear holding on the clutch. So I think that has been another issue. I mean, I don't know how electric cars work on that, but I don't know if
they've been all right. People thought that because we borrowed the milk float from the harbour, and people thought that it broke down this year, including the people who drove it, but accidentally they just hit the emergency stop and didn't know they'd done it, so they couldn't restart it. But I mean, this is some of the problems of vehicles on parades, do you mean, with a big hill that you've got to go up?
We actually ended up with something like 2.5, 3 hours of parade, and that's a long time. I mean, if it's raining, it doesn't help, but if it's good weather, that's a long time to be for any of our walkers to be out.
I walked it, so I know.
Particularly so I can completely understand where Teresa's coming from in looking at whether or not that part of the route is suitable.
I think it's a question of keeping it dynamically under review, and also consulting with our audience, because actually, I know this sounds odd, but it did me a real favour, because when I had said, I think this route is too long, I got no support on my own community whatsoever. People don't like change, right?
No.
But actually, a public debate started itself. And I was like, oh, that's handy, because now I can have a proper consultation because the issue's been raised, and maybe it can't be. But I think people have got to come to understand that even if we maintain the full route for some people, not everybody can do it. And if we're to meet our other objectives of being inclusive, and we want people in wheelchairs and mobility issues to be able to be in our carnival, then we've got the high street.
That's great.
I don't think it's for us to.
Sorry?
I don't think it's for us to talk about.
No, I think this is. I think the reason that it's coming up is because these are, the viability of the carnival is, do we fund it? And so, and Councillor Schonk did raise that there have been these criticisms.
Yes, I know.
So I think it's fair that we
still had 40 entries.
I went to both days, and actually it was a fantastic 2-day event. So I was very impressed, both on the Saturday. As Rebecca will know, that we spent a couple of hours wandering around ourselves, and
the Giants, building on the Giants.
I think we have to leave it, as you're saying, we have to leave it to the event organisers to resolve those longer term issues. And again.
Is 6K enough?
No.
Then why are you proposing 6K?
because it's double what it was before, and I'm thinking about how much I might be able to get through full council. It is a good increase on what they've had before, and it does more or less cover those basic core costs, which is what I felt was the right thing to do. Those costs were a complete guesswork. We were sat in a cafe, and I threw at Teresa, what do you think it's cost? And she, 7,000 to 8,000, do a quick bit of mental arithmetic.
I spent the day doing a budget analysis actually, but I haven't finished it because I've done it over 4 years. It will be useful in the future.
I mean, I haven't asked for an increase over the whole fund this year. Because we did have a reduction in our expenditure this year because we haven't got the new events that we had a lot of money put aside for. If we actually go back onto the previous screen, what you've got is the events fund for the community. What is still left in that fund is 65,000. That's a 20,000 increase over last year's budget. And I felt that the way that we've been able to move things around, I could offer the council a no increase on town promotion rather than asking for extra funding. But yes, I mean, you're right, it's not enough. It's not enough for Miss Ramsgate either. It's not enough for any of us, any of our events, to be honest, what we are able to give them.
I can give you anecdotes. In Leighton Waltham Forest Council commissioned Great British Carnival to bring back the Leighton Mats this year, and they paid us 30,000 to organise it. We still had to seek additional sponsorship and sell stalls and get a truck trade. I think the event cost about 50,000, but they put up, so as a comparator in terms of what is the actual value, to the community, to the town, even if with Trevor's costing, it still is the biggest participatory event. It has a hugely loyal crowd that will turn out next year, and the stability the funding offers is something I'd be really grateful for. We accept that we've got to be entrepreneurial.
I think that's the other thing. I would say it was Teresa that gave me the word anchor funding. I latched onto it because actually I got that concept, and it does give you, as you say, the stability, and it gives you that baseline to account for other funding. I'm more than happy to increase it if that's what you would like to propose. I mean, it would have to be accepted.
Propose, I'm not part of this committee.
Well, I know, but you can suggest it. Maybe one of the other members. Would you like to see it increase? You can propose it at FNGP. Or we could do it now, but I would be taking it out of the events fund community budget rather than changing the totals necessarily. Councillor Hudson.
I personally think it's okay, that amount. I mean, because I think it's good that you are going to fundraise through other means as well. Sorry,
yeah, we will.
Okay? Because otherwise people just say, okay, that's it. It gives you an incentive to maybe look at other funding sources.
It does. The only thing I would say is we're all doing that as volunteers, and to raise that level of money for a voluntary committee. I do it because in my other app, in my CIC, and we net contribute to the carnival as well, and we raise funding for it and everything. I guess it's about future-proofing, So I'm obviously not about to argue against you increasing that funding.
Do the entries all fund themselves?
Yes. No, I mean, we do buy in some as well. So if it was just the entries, it wouldn't be spectacular enough. No. So we book in some bands and,
I don't know. I mean, maybe take it to FNGP is better.
I mean, if it's really, I have to ask the other councillors who are on the committee here if you would like to change that from 6,000 to something else, or if actually I'm more inclined to put it to FNGP and let FNGP make that change because it's another committee and a bigger committee. There's only 3 voting members in the room here, and so I'm more inclined. I mean, I'm on FNGP as well, so. I'm more inclined to push it through to F&GP.
Okay.
And, you know, if there are any changes.
We'll see what else comes up.
Yeah. Because last year you robbed me of 30,000.
I know.
So this year I've given you no increase at all. So if you do rob me, then you're robbing me of you know, what I've already had. So one of the reasons we have a zero increase is because you robbed me last year. So that's basically it. And I'm hoping that I've managed to give that extra 20,000 to the community events fund that I tried to give last year. Because, you know, that will actually benefit all the other events.
You've done really well.
That we have coming forward.
Congratulations, Chair.
Thank you.
To Dean as well, Rebecca.
Yeah, I mean,
So say, the reason that she needs, you know, you need another £2,000 desperately, otherwise it won't go ahead. Can that come out of the events budget, the 65,000?
I would think if they were to put in another application to the events fund for some funding, I'm inclined at the moment to ask it for it to go to F&GP, where Councillor Green is the chair and can make the proposal from the chair in F&GP. I'm quite happy for an extra 2,000 to go to the carnival. I was just trying to look for a figure that met a certain need.
What do you want to propose that then? Or is that
I'm inclined to leave it as it is and allow it to go to F&GP, knowing with the confidence that Councillor Graham is actually.
We don't know yet what else will come forward.
Sorry?
We don't know yet what else
No,
will
exactly.
come forward.
So, I mean, the thing is, if I make that proposal, I will be moving it from the Community Events Fund to the Carnival, rather than asking for an additional 2,000 out of the total. So, and I will say, if I am robbed by F&GP this year, it will be a combination of the council events, the development and contingency fund, and the community events fund that I would be looking at them being the most vulnerable. But I am not expecting.
I don't want to see anything. I don't want to see anything taken out of the events.
Oh, well, I don't. I didn't want to last year, but I certainly don't want to.
You happy with that?
Yeah.
Chair, it's nearly 9:30.
I know.
I think it's time to go.
I know.
Would you like to give your recommendation?
So if we can jump another couple of screens. This is the final breakdown, taking out all of the bits and pieces that kind of explain where some of the figures came from. That's what the final looks like. And so I think you've already received that in your email out. Slightly different layout than Dean's given you, but that's all of that all together. So members of this committee, are either of you prepared to propose that?
Yeah, I'll propose.
Thank you. And second. Yes. Right, would all three of us like to vote? Thank you.
Come on.
Okay, look, thank you all for your patience. I'm sorry, I felt I needed to do that introduction at the beginning because it was important to understand how I built it. And so thank you for your patience with that. Right.
Did